Now, the leader who has broken so many barriers, Debra Lee was the CEO of BET for over a decade and one of the few black women to hold the position in corporate America. She's also a very good friend, and in her new memoir, I Am Debra Lee, she shares her remarkable journey and advice to future CEOs. It is so wonderful. You are Debra Lee.
Thank you, I am.
Yes, you really are.
Yeah, it's also my hashtag on Twitter and Instagram.
I follow you, so I kind of know that.
You knew that, yeah. So great to see you, Robin. Thank
Wonderful.
you for having me.
Pub Day.
Today.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you do not hold back. You are really personal in sharing your story.
Yeah.
Why now?
Well, I stepped down from BET about 3 years ago, and I was supposed to retire, but you know, that never works for those of us who are used to working so hard. And I always wanted to write a book, and I wanted to give advice to those coming behind me, because that's always been part of who I am. You know, I was a counselor in college and law school, you know, did hiring at the law firm, blah, 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 built a great team at BET. And I've always thought I was pretty normal. You know, I wasn't the smartest kid in the class. I was maybe 5th or 6th.
Okay.
I went to all black public high school. And I just want young people to know if I can do it, they can do it too. And they should dream big. And I looked around when I stepped down and realized there's still very few black female CEOs. And it's not anything I dreamt of, but now that I've done it, I loved it, and people come up to me and thank me for doing it, and I wanted them to know it is possible.
And you're so candid in talking about the triumphs and trials and the challenges,
Right.
and you really want to help, especially women in the workplace.
Right.
You talked about your working and personal relationship with your former boss at BET, Bob Johnson.
Right.
So what is your advice about that, the power dynamics for women in the workplace?
Right. Well, I wanted to tell that story because the power dynamics are so important in a relationship, and especially if you're having a relationship with someone you work for.
Right.
And we all know the potential pitfalls. You know, I worked for Bob Johnson for 10 years before we had a personal romantic relationship, and he was a mentor, and he pushed me, and you know, he's responsible for a lot of my success. We did have a relationship while we were both married. We ended up both divorced, and then people knew about the relationship. The company knew, public, we started going places together. The downfall of a relationship like that is if you want to get out of it. And that's the part where it came, and I wanted to break up. I saw it wasn't a long-term relationship, and my job and my career was held over my head. And it was like, well, if you want to break up with me, then you can leave tomorrow. And that was, you know, 20 years into my career at BET, so I would have lost everything. Yeah. I would have lost my career, my job, my ability maybe to get another job, because if I couldn't get a reference for the person I worked for 20 years, how do I explain that? And by that time I was a single mother with 2 children. So it was a tough time, and I didn't have anyone to talk to about it because I didn't have female role models. There weren't a lot of women ahead of me. You know, I was embarrassed to talk to my family about it. So it was a dark time, and what saved me was therapy. And eventually Bob left the company and I became CEO. And I was CEO for 13 years without him being there, and I was able
a lot of success.
Right, and to live my dream, and without, you know, any form of harassment. So I guess after Me Too and Time's Up, I wanted women to know there's other kind of harassment. You know, it's not all a man coming to the door in a robe. You know, that's not the kind of relationship I had. It was one that grew into a relationship, you know, at times it felt consensual, you know, because we were out in public. But after Me Too and Time's Up came back, I sort of reevaluated the whole thing. I said, was this really my choice?
But it was you were so candid about it, and you're going to really help a lot of women who read this and have a better understanding.
Right.
And I know you also want to discuss about mental well-being.
Right.
And how important that is in the workplace. What did you want to share with folks about that?
Well, I want to say that we all should be kind to ourselves, no matter what kind of profession you have, what kind of fast track you're on.
Right.
And I think COVID proved that to us, you know, when we were all stuck at home. Unfortunately, I lost my son during COVID. He died from depression, and he was such an outgoing young man and just so social that it was hard for him to be inside. He was dealing with Black Lives Matter. He was dealing with George Floyd's murder. So that really affected me. And even myself, as I just said, I still do therapy, and it helped me get through. And, you know, sometimes we can lose the context of what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it, and how important family is and friends are, and having interests outside your career. So, you know, I wanted to be an example. And people see me come out on stage once a year at the BET Awards, and I didn't like doing that. I also talk in the book about how I'm an introvert and pretty shy. So that was always a struggle for me to talk to analysts or people during town hall meetings, but I got better at it. But I came out so that our audience knew a Black woman ran the network. And that was making a huge statement. And I still have young girls come up to me and say, you know, you're an example, Miss Lee, thank you. I have young Black men come up to me and say, Miss Lee, thank you for what you did for the culture. And it always warms my heart. So again, I wanted people to know my whole story, that it's not all glamorous. I wasn't hanging out with stars all the time. I lived in DC. I would go to Halloween parades, you know.
And you tell your whole story.
Yeah.
You really tell your whole story.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you. I am Debra Lee, and you really, it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap for many people.
Thank you. I tried to combine my story with advice so that people would remember the stories and remember the advice.
And well done.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I am Debra Lee. It is out today. Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.